If you want to get better at tracking, it's great to start with animals that are large and common, and there's no better place to start than the Canada goose. Here we have 2 perfect tracks of the Canada goose, and you should be able to pick out 1, 2, 3 toes, and you should also see some webbing. Canada geese have webbed feet because they spend so much time in the water. On this one, you can actually see it nicely between both sets of toes. In terms of size, here's my hand for scale. Geese tracks are some of the bigger bird tracks that you're going to come across. If you see a heron or an eagle or a swan, something like that, those tracks will be bigger. Something else to key in on with these picture perfect tracks is this large pad in the middle. This is called the metatarsal if you want to be nerdy about it, but this dot here at the center of both feet where all the toes meet is a prominent feature of Canada goose tracks. When you get a whole trail, it should look something like this. And another feature to look for is that the feet are sort of pigeon-toed or goose-toed. They should be pointing somewhat in towards the middle of the trail rather than out. So even though when we say duck-footed, we talk about people walking with their feet out to the side, these geese will walk with their feet pointed inwards. Something that makes tracking really challenging and really fun for me is how the tracks will change depending on the substrate or what the animal is walking on. So we've got 2 goose tracks here. These should look pretty similar to what we've been looking at. And as I pan the camera up, the sand is going to get more and more dry. And we'll take a look at how these tracks present as the substrate changes. Here they are in wet sand, looking mostly like we saw them earlier. And here the sand is still wet, but it's just harder so that the geese are not pushing in as far, and we only get sort of a faint suggestion of where this animal went. And now we've got the goose moving up the side of the hill here, and in this spot we're only seeing 2 of its 3 toes making an impact. That 3rd toe should be right here where my finger is, but it's not actually registering at all. And that'll happen on this next track as well. And this is a pretty common presentation for goose tracks to only have 2 of those toes registering instead of all 3. And that's just another reason why it's so important to look at all of the characteristics and the whole trail if you can, rather than just counting the toes or looking at a single track to try to identify it. Okay, we're up on top of the dry sand, and we can recognize this as the 2 toes from the goose. That 3rd one again is missing, and we still see that big metatarsal dot, that big pad in the middle of the foot registering, and we'll also get a faint impression of it here. If you follow an animal long enough, odds are you will come across some scat. Here's the track, the trail of the goose, and right on cue, the scat. Identifying scat is a really challenging part of tracking because it will vary so much with the season and depending on what the animal is eating. In this case, the scat here is pretty loose, pretty wet and goopy, which could speak to a high water content for the diet of this goose, and this scat being deposited in some water, perhaps, or being rained on. Those are some theories I'm working with.